Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy new week. And hope everybody's doing good. I'm joined here by Mike Hruby today, every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm good, Steve. And hello, everyone. It's good to be here again.
So this week, like we said last week, we're going to talk about Massachusetts. And there's so many different things to talk about. We had Dana, who's from Boston, on the roundtable last week. And he was telling us a little bit about some of the gig laws that are going on and why they're doing the things with the motorcycles and all this crazy stuff. But then I dropped with you guys about Colorado and on 13 minutes and what we've done. And Mike, I'm going to ask Mike to review the two bills. And next week on this Be My Own Boss podcast, we will discuss those bills and get Mike's opinion on them too, because I'm going to be very interested to see. But this week we're going to talk about Massachusetts. But before we do, first of all, pinned in the live show links, and I'll put it in the replay down below. You guys make sure to go check out the new channel, Be My Own Boss podcast. Already got some subs over there. Already had a lot of likes. Got some watch time hours. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate it. Really simple. Just check it out. It's at Be My Own Boss podcast on the YouTube channel, as well as we've got a Twitter page now. We've been throwing a lot of Mike. So we've got a YouTube, a Twitter. What else? Oh, we've got a TikTok. Don't go bombarding them, guys, but they're there. I mean, I'm just letting you know the process is moving along here.
They can bombard us all we want.
Yeah. And then there's always newjobsamerica.com too. So there's just so much to be doing, you guys. So yeah. Let me say hi to the chat real quick. So Hey, Christopher Taylor, and thank you for gifting out some looks like you gifted out some memberships there. I appreciate that. Got Joshy in there, Tulsa Gator, Jehu, Sam, and Simon is Loki. Not sure what that is. Make sure you guys too, like I said at the top, even if whichever you're watching on, but click the other link in the chat and go over and give a like to the other live rolling, because we're simultaneously casting these on both. So hello everybody. And where we left off last week, Mike, what can we talk about with, because I think this is going to be interesting for the people who watched Thursday. And Mike, you know Dana, he submitted a video for us.
Sure.
So he actually follows the politics of the gig space a lot. And he's very involved and passionate with, and I know he recently got elected to a big position, but he has been too for many years because he has some kids, very involved in school administrations and being not a teacher or not an admin of the school. I don't really know how to say it, not just at the forums, but he's actually with those now. Like he's at every meeting, he's making changes. He doesn't like the way schools are being run. So he's very in touch with Massachusetts, but I feel like in a different way than you.
Yes, very much so. Right.
But you understand how weird the state can be. And I guess that's what's kind of awesome, is if we can talk about that a little bit today. I think that'd be really good to also, like, it'll lead into like understanding the differences of states, even when we talk about Colorado next week. Because your state, even the little I do know, I'm looking to learn a little today too, because the little I do know is it's very weird. And every state uses different wording. I always think this kind of stuff is weird. I understand it goes back so long that it's just is what it is. But like, why can't every state call it a proposal? Why are there like 8 words that can be the word proposal in different states? But Massachusetts has some really quirky stuff. And I'm really confused on the fact of when you have 2 options on how to vote for something, how there's like 8 ballot initiatives on how to vote for that.
Like
you're still funneling to 2.
Well, that's another quirk, unrelated. But the answer to your question is people who are handling ballot initiatives have money and clout to get signatures. I mean, you stand here at their local grocery store, and somebody stands 8 hours a day. Sometimes they shift, and you get signatures, and they need like 60, 70, 100,000, depending upon what the deal is. And that takes time and money. So it's a game that wealthy nonprofits play kind of against each other and sometimes with each other. And you're never quite sure what the other guy's doing. So you want to have a couple of alternatives, but you've got to go down the road with them. You can't just like photocopy and fill in the blanks and say, that's my proposal. You got to get 50,000, 15,000, whatever the number is, just to get in the door with the Attorney General and the Secretary of State.
So I was just going to ask you, is that's kind of, I don't know this, is that something that's universal, or is that based on the topic? Like, how do you know how many signatures you're going to need?
Well, each step, you know where there's a like a 5-step process, let's say. It's something like that. And each step has its own published threshold. And the first one, I think, is like very, very few signatures. And that gives you the piece of paper that you then have to hand around and have 15,000 people sign. And then it goes up. And if you're, doing something else, there's a bigger number. And then at the end, if it's all okay, you need a little number, like 10,000, but you need them right away. You need them in 2 weeks. So it's like jumping through a series of different size hoops with different landing zones behind them. So it's like a weird gym contest. And everybody knows this. Like I don't play it, so I don't know it by heart. I can look it up. And that is definitely a Massachusetts quirk. And there's some very strict rules about how you construct it. That's in the Massachusetts Constitution. Bless them when you want it, and don't bless them when they don't want it. It's all in the spirit of federalism. Like, we do it this way. Colorado does it that way. California, right. They don't do it any way at all. And so
Colorado does it behind closed doors on a weekend when nobody's around. Or California, I mean.
We've got hundreds of thousands of pages of federal laws, and what is it getting us? It's a mess. Anyway, that's the answer to the question. But let's talk about the IC law, because it is a thing of legend, which is not quite reality. So, but maybe, let's see. The first thing is, we have that exceptionally harsh ABC test now in law.
Now, again, you guys, before he even goes on, he just used word ABC, and prior I had said California. We are now talking about Massachusetts.
Right. Okay. Holds up a big sign, Massachusetts.
Right.
We think we're the center. I'm not a native Massachusetts, so it gives me this outsider's view. They think they're the center of the universe, and that's fun in a lot of ways, to be at a place that's way off on the East Coast, little bitty, mostly sand and bad rock, but they think it's the hub of the universe. So okay, humor them. We have this incredibly harsh bill. I'm going to go into it in our first major podcast for Be My Own Boss. I'm going to talk about the ABC test, because nobody bothers to explain it. We're going to do that. We're going to keep it simple, make it fun. So our current law was signed into law in 2004. There's a history to it that's totally weird, and we'll cover that in another issue, because in another podcast. All of this is totally idiosyncratic to Massachusetts. It's like who did what to whom and when. So we signed this law, and the law in black letters effectively makes it impossible to make a living serving clients and doing independent contracting work. And that's because the way they write these provisions.
So it's kind of like, from what I was told, the ABC test is in Colorado's law too. It's kind of buried in a handful of states.
It's actually in quite a few states, but it's very different in most states. And we're going to get into
every state's very different, or your state's very different.
Many of the states are different from each other.
Because it is all interpretive too. I mean, there's a reason why it's buried in all these states, and we haven't heard about it until California pulled it out.
It's that way because the people that pay to have these laws passed don't want it to be something that anybody understands. They want the government to be required to judge on it and moderate it and blow everybody else's costs and uncertainty up, and then you'll get a judgment. Okay, so it's a 3-part test. And the 3 different parts eliminate your ability to make a living doing something for someone else in someone else's main line of work, and a couple other restrictions, 2 others. When they passed this, it passed under a completely different topic, a weird history. And, people doing stuff in the night and changes made, and something slipped under the governor's signature. I'll hold the drama for later, but it is really something. The legislature has never passed this, but it got signed by the governor. We'll leave it at that. Now, but nobody reads fresh legislation. They think they've already read it. So around the end of 2005, word began percolating. It was kind of an elbow and a question, like, have you seen this? And people started going to the bill. You can go to them online and saying, oh, I can't do that. I can't pass it. People say, businesses say, well, that can't be the law. That's not what we agreed. All of that's true. You can't pass it. And it wasn't what people agreed on. And it got really serious, because it got so serious, the Attorney General read it and came to the,
was this no, it wouldn't have been. Or was she the governor, the governor now was Attorney General then, or was it a prior governor or AG?
We haven't had an Attorney General who was governor in our living memory that I know of, and not grown up.
Isn't your governor right now? She was prior AG.
Oh, yes. Sorry, but she has nothing to do with it.
No. I was wondering. 2005 is probably back a bit. So
sorry.
No.
This governor has her own story. I mean, the whole thing. They write books about this. Okay. The then Attorney General, named Martha Coakley, who ran for office for governor and didn't get there, she realized that this was a mess and that they were going to wind up putting everybody in jail who ran the state. And I mean in the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and the public sector. And she said, we can't have it. And nobody wanted to change it. Nobody wanted to get out front of it. So she came out with her interpretation. Now, we're going to go into these things. Her interpretation amounts to, and I'm going to quote and read it so that I get it right. If all the employment taxes, the income taxes, and the benefit costs are for the work done are paid by some party in the transaction, that means either the buyer or the seller, then there will be no Massachusetts state enforcement of the law as written. Okay. Now, so 2 quick things may come to mind for our sharp and happy readers. First of all, she's making the decision about the Massachusetts getting the tax revenue, not about protecting anyone. So, yeah, okay.
She's looking out for the state, not the people.
I'm looking out for the state. My employer needs to get this money. I don't care what you say. We're going to get it, and we'll shut up if we get it. So we're basically paid hands here. Okay. Now, so what that did is that it meant that the bill doesn't really apply unless the state wants to apply it, or unless a plaintiff's attorney thinks that they have a good case and they can win on this and get around the interpretation. And we have the most ingenious litigator, plaintiff's attorney, here in Massachusetts. All of this stuff starts here. It's amazing. Okay. No one outside the state realizes that we have an umbrella, a legal umbrella, semi-legal, protecting independent contractors and their clients from this law. Now, in Massachusetts, we have a very special economy. We don't make anything. We can't even make breakfast. We buy it all, especially the donuts. There are powerful non-donut sources in Massachusetts that want the status of protected but somewhat misanthropic. The state government is the biggest user of independent contractors anywhere. They don't want to go to jail. We have software here. We have tons of pharmaceutical and gene splicing and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Universities, hardly function without this. Massive consulting operations. We've got the financial sector, which has been huge for 300 years. We've got the medical industry, and we've got construction. So nobody who walks around, within a position of power wants to revisit this issue. It's fine. We have a reputation for being tough. That drives out some of the bad guys, and the rest we can clean up, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to go into this more, but she has written an umbrella. Now here's an example of labor law, effective labor law, that is, first of all, it's not a law. What we're doing is not written in the law. Secondly, it's not even a regulation. It's not binding on any official because they can go back on it. It's not
wait. So yeah. What is it? If it's not any of these things, and where is it written, and what is its value then?
What is it? It's a policy intention by an elected official that's contrary to the law, but this is the official in charge of enforcing it. So it's a defalcation. She says, I'm not going to do my legal job as long as you pay your taxes. So it is a weird thing because but she's no longer there, so you can't sue her.
Right.
And nobody who's interested, this is labor law. It's the original small, little, deep silo. Nobody wants to get involved.
Right. I feel like you're going to the point of tort law.
Well,
it's like far back, and that's how I feel like a lot of these things. It's like archaeological digs. I feel like these people are like dusting off some things in the log going, did you ever see this?
That's all right. So the fifth thing is it enables selective enforcement. Much of what we're seeing in the public debate right now is selective enforcement of the law, selective interpretations. Again, Massachusetts kind of invented this 20 years ago, and here we are. Now, the last thing, and this is just a little dig at the little people, it is unmentioned in the law. So you can't actually discover this thing exists. You can't look at the labor regulations. You can't look at labor law. I read, our independent contractor statute probably 20 times, maybe more, for the first couple of years I was here before I realized this thing even exists. So it's like some sort of weird hall pass for middle schoolers. It's like you can walk in the hall during class, but if you have this and I like you, then you'll be okay. But if I don't like you, I'm going to punish you. What is the law? Okay, so that's what we have. We have it was so bad that they took it to California and implemented there, but there were no protections. There were only exemptions. So that's quirky California. Then they rolled it into the PRO Act because it still has these wicked teeth. We'll go into the teeth and how it works. Then it's been, you asked a question earlier. Do states have different? Some of the states, there's an A, B, and a C. Some of the states have an A and a B and no C. Some of them have different, conjunctions between them. And some of them have a kind of watered down definition. They tend to fall into clusters, which is what you're saying, but they all work differently because the original bill is so harsh. The minute you modify it, it normally gets a little gentler.
That's why I was going to ask you. I feel like some states even have it like once California discovered it. That's why I said archaeological dig. I feel like people start getting in like, wait, do we have it? Do we have it? Do we have it like a scratch ticket?
Right.
And,
exactly.
And some states were like, we do have it. Let's not touch that.
Right.
I feel like some states were smart enough to say, dude, we don't want to even get involved with that crap.
Well, like Florida has an extremely realistic independent contractor law. I haven't been back to see it, the text in 2-3 years, but you look at it and you think this is completely realistic.
Right.
And the original ABC test used to be better too. We're going to go into that. That's another topic. So because, like you said, you can learn so much doing this. You look at the history, you look at who's working on it, you look at who's helping who work on it.
So I guess here's the way I'm interpreting it is Massachusetts. I think when you said that, like, you guys are kind of like you didn't say it in these words, but this is how I take it too. It's like, for me, it is a state to always watch. Like, I don't live there, but all the things that you said are in there, and I've just always known this. You watch Massachusetts very importantly because they can shape how other states will go.
Yes, and they do
often, right? And so that's why I get worried when Massachusetts does strange things, because I'm like, if this passes, other states, not all of them, but other states look at it and go, let's do that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's sometimes it's as easy as watching what California AB5 did, and everybody's like, why would you try that? It killed everybody.
Well, they our good buddy Lorena Gonzalez went to. She said she went to Massachusetts and talked with people, and everybody says, "Yeah, there's no problem." Well,
Right.
With the current setup, yes. With the current law, no. And did she mention the current setup? No, she talked about the law, but she was coached. She knows she was doing what she was told.
Right.
This has been on the shelf for years. It's fascinating. I saw a funny quote from a book printed in the early 1800s, and the one thing came out of that book. It was said Massachusetts loves experts, and I'm thinking this is 200 years old, and it's still true. They love experts. They love expertise. They love to be experts. They love to hire experts. They love to know them. They love to quote them. They're kind of in love with them. We've got 100 colleges and universities.
Well, that's why it would make somebody like me appreciate Massachusetts more if it was handled properly, because I'd be like, that, okay, there's a lot of experts there. I appreciate their view. But when you guys get all crazy with your laws, then I'm like, wait, somebody threw a wrench into the system here.
Well, that always happens because we have the forces that oppose us, the forces of non-freedom. They more or less own this state, even more than in many ways California before 2019. So they wrote books about the Massachusetts. The one was a guy called us the bluest state, John Keller, newscaster, news opinion guy, and it was. And everybody that works at the universities and all their students and most of the people who depend on them are all very liberal. Well, nothing wrong with that, but and then the teachers unions are absolutely huge, and so every teacher can go out and help canvass. So I mean, it's like having an army of a couple of 100,000 people. So,
which is why I was glad to see somebody like Dana get involved with all this, because I know his views, and I'm like, cool. He's passionate. He's angry. He's gonna make some changes.
Congratulations to Dana. I think that's absolutely terrific. But I mean, that's he knows what he's fighting. But the point is, when you talk to people, they're here. They're very reasonable. They're intelligent. Mm-hmm. They try to stay up to date on things, and they're busy.
Yeah. So we've ran out of time, but here's my question I want to leave you with. I don't even want your answer today.
Okay.
So next week, guys, we will start off with Mike's answer, and then we'll get into the Colorado thing, which Mike will have time to look at the two bills because they were separated into two bills. Both went into law last Wednesday, so we're not talking about potential. These are done and done. Governor Jared Polis already signed them into law. So we will dive into both of those, but we will start off with the answer to this question that he will not answer, and then I'll sign us out. Is that, Mike, do you think that, I mean, obviously it matters to get your vote out clearly. We shouldn't even have to say that to people. Get out and vote. Not telling you how to vote, just get out and vote. Try and know everything you can. But do you think that in this year, there is potential of a serious backlash on the independent contractors in Massachusetts? A potential, not
in Massachusetts, I would say probably not. And the reason is this interpretation from 2008 has really anesthetized them to the risk. You know, they don't really realize the state has the power to absolutely shut down their careers. Unless you've gone through it, you don't know what that is.
So here's I proposed the same question around just the gig economy to Dana.
Yeah.
And I said, so from the boots on the ground, Dana, do you think that this year it's going to affect the app-based gig economy, not just all independent contractors, but the app-based gig economy? And he said, I honestly don't know. He said, but here's what I'll say. If it doesn't go this year, it won't go.
I think that's fair.
He said, if people don't vote it in this year after all the crap that's happened, he goes, I don't ever see it happening.
Yeah.
But he said, but I'm very torn on whether it will happen.
Yeah.
So
he not answered that question better than I not answered it.
Right. Well, we were referring to the fact of, Dana, after this year's election, will all gig workers be W-2? Because they're pushing that hard.
No, there'll be nothing. Most of them.
Right. Because we know W-2 won't work. So
right. They can't fit. Look at the people who made their videos we posted.
Yeah. And we were all fighting to not be. My point to Dana and I were laughing because the point to it was, if you make this space and everybody in the state be a W-2, not only will the companies not be able to survive without the ICs, but nobody's going to want that W-2 position with DoorDash or Uber. They're going to go get it with a different company. There's been too much. Nobody would trust them. Like, this is where I'll devote my career. And all I hear is bad things about these companies. Like, the only reason we tolerate them is because we're independent contractors. So we'll leave it at that. We'll dive hard into Colorado next time. And guys, make sure to check out Mike's channel. It's in the show notes. If you're watching on the replay, I pinned it right there. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. Help us grow this, because the audio podcast too, we're just trying to get it all going. And you guys are already hoping it's getting momentum. Let's get it seen. Trying to get as many eyes on all the platforms as possible. And every week we'll dive into more topics. I'm going to send Mike like a list of 5. And then I'm going to let him pick every week after we go through Colorado next week out of them. And then if he ever has one that's time sensitive or wants to override it and just say, let's do this one instead, I'm all game. That's kind of how we'll do it.
You treat me great, Steve. Thank you.
We need to keep doing this every week until the election, because anybody that can get educated on any level, and if you guys have suggestions, please put them in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, put them in the comments below either channel's notes, whatever. Just put anything you'd like to be covered. We'll talk about it. So with that said, guys, thank you for joining us, and we will see you back here next Monday.
So long, everyone.
On the podcast. Bye, everybody.
Okay.